Exactly. So we are talking about the wage system, and now we are told by President Mahama, he went to Germany. I mean, he is in Germany, and he's been making some statements and some comments. He is saying that we are hoping to cut wages further drastically. You even mentioned it earlier that after the single spine salary structure thing was put in effect, there was a significant, I mean, really significant increase to about 70%. The wage to productivity was about 70% or so. Now we are told it's hovering around 57% thereabouts, and the president is saying by 2016 or so it's going to be reduced further to 35%.
We hope to reduce it to
35%.
Yeah.
So now, if we are to reduce it to 35%, what does that mean? Does that mean we are cutting jobs? Does that mean we are putting a freeze on employment? What's going to happen?
No, that is exactly what he has shown you. When we did the single spine, there was a bloated, which didn't even match of productivity and the consideration. That increased the wage, bloated it to some level, and that brought the 70%. Now what he says is that we have not stabilized, because we have finished all the migration of the workers to the single spine. All the arrears have been paid. In other words, one of the components, as he mentioned, is not how do they call it, a constant factor. So what can do that is revenue increase now, as he said that's one of the factors. It will help to reduce the percentage to come down. If productivity,
how does government hope to increase revenue?
Of course, if productivity, you see, let's be very frank. If everybody who has done the single spine will know that it did not match productivity.
No, but I understand that. I'm just asking how government hopes to increase revenue.
Government can increase revenue through many factors, as mentioned in the policies of this particular budget. Expanding the revenue base.
How?
Looking at the how. Yes. Look at the non-formal sector. You see, I can tell a lot of people get away with paying their taxes in this country.
But I mean, this is not the first time we're hearing such a thing.
Fine, but this is not the first time, but it's always the first time to implement it. And this
is the first time it's going to be implemented.
We started the processing. One, they have tried to bring everybody under one PIN number, so that you have the same social security, you have the same VAT, you have the same IRS. Is what I'm going on. It will help to bring those who are normally evading taxes. Avoiding evasion is avoidance of taxes. Bring them into the net to pay their taxes. And the second is whether people are paying the appropriate tax system. You know, when they audited the GRA recently, government is able to cover a lot of revenue that people will have to pay. And then, for example, if and all of them through the corruption you are talking, which this government have put initiative in, for example, if somebody have been assessed a tax of, let's say, 200,000 Ghana cedis. Maybe through corruption, he end up paying only 50,000 instead of the 200,000. Now, if you're able to put up a mechanism in the system to dictate this, that is the loss of the 150,000 Ghana cedi that you will have gone. You are not gaining it to increase your revenue. So all these policies and measures are being put in to increase the revenue base. And once this is done, you get a point, then once we have now stabilized the salary structure, so that now all that you can do is the marginal increase of salary to match productivity, then constantly you can reduce the 70% down to 57 now and down to 35, which is the internationally accepted level.
I gather from what you're saying that the primary focus is actually on increasing revenue.
Oh, you cut the expenditure too.
How?
Because it's two aspects. You cut the expenditure by wastage and losses. There may be a lot of wastage in the system. And I remember the finance minister did not miss when he said it. You look at a lot of wastage in the system. For example, efficiency. Like, for example, things that we could have done 2 cedis, maybe we are doing that 4 cedis. It helps. You get the point I'm saying? A lot of workers, like these earn salaries, or whatever you call the ghost name, and going on. It is happening. You know, I'm a member of the Public Accounts Committee. And when we sit at the Public Accounts on the GES, the commonest that run irregularity is unearned salaries. A lot of people...
That's even at the GES.
That's the commonest. That's the common. If you take most of the MMDAs, that's what you call the ghost names. I don't want to talk of the ghosts. Okay, and yet they continue appearing in the salary, in the wages for maybe sometimes 1 year, 2 years. As I'm talking now, we have not less than, I can take 30 to 100 people who have to refer money to the government on the Public Accounts Committee. We have done it, and we have gone. I remember there are some. I didn't need to mention them here. There are people who have to pay around 57,000 some have to pay around 50,000. The normal one went to Shetri, one man nearly collapsed because his pension cannot pay the money he has to pay back to the government. So we have these things on a lot of them. That is the wishes in the system.
But what you're saying is there are lots more ghost names in the Ghana Education Service.
Yes, and now I'll tell you the reason why it is so. Yes, if you want me to go ahead.
Sure, go ahead.
Yes,
go ahead.
because you see, the Ghana Education Service is one of the major things, and they have to look at it. A teacher retired in Bolga, maybe a village in somewhere in my constituency. Okay, his name is supposed to be deleted by that particular headmaster to the district director of education. Maybe he has not done it, either omission or commission, or maybe even collusion. So once GS at the head office is not aware that this teacher has retired before the letter goes to them, then they are feeding the same input to controller Menfley. So controller continue paying that salary because as far as controller is concerned, the name is not deleted.
But the GES has the data of everyone who actually works.
Well, that is one bigger problem. That's what people are blaming controller. I have been there. I was a former worker of controller. And I know exactly what I'm telling you. I was the head of pension. Pension, computation pension. We have people who died. And for 1 year, 2 years, I remember a family came for their father's pension. And they were taking salary for 2 years. We have to deduct all the whole salary. So in the long run, there's nothing to pay the family. They never collapse. That's the issue, because before I do the pension computation, we have to know when the man retired. And when I realized that he retired, and then within the 2 years, they were paying into the bank. And they were withdrawing. The family were withdrawing the salary. And meanwhile, they are coming for their pension grant, gratuity, whatever it is. We have to deduct all these things. So there are complexity in this. And most of it is with the data coming from the HR. The human, that is the GS, Ministry of Health, local government, all those agencies. If they fail to perform, what do you expect controller to do? Because I don't know that the man has left the job. I sit here. I was in the local government. That's my last job as the director of audit before I became an MP. When I retired for almost 2 months, my salary was continually coming. I went there and told them to delete the name. They didn't. I have to go there because I'm a worker there, and I know, and because I'm a controller staff, for to delete the name myself. So controller would never have known that I've left a local government, with the local government, and become an MP because you have not fed him the information. That's the biggest problem. And I'm surprised that people are not looking at this. And all is because the GS is too big. They have to find a way how their data information come to the head office. Look, they have a big problem. Even processing their pension. Go and ask the teachers. Also, it takes sometimes 3 years. Somebody retired. To get his fast in GS is a problem. I can challenge whoever said, because I build the pension computation and I dealt with the GS. When Professor Akofi Amia was the Director General of Education, and I had a problem to confront and meet all this. Say, as what is happening with the GS in processing your data to bring it for pension or for salaries. This is the biggest problem.
So you think that the fire shouldn't actually be on the controller and accountant?
Controller has its problem, its challenges. I'm not taking that away.
Okay.
But the major problem is this integration that should come between sectorial. In other words, Ministry of Education, Ministry of Health, controller, and other sectors of agencies who should come together to look at the salary structure. This won't go on. And I'm happy that today I was listening to her press conference. She was saying that this committee has been set up. They are looking at the challenges. Controller has his too. I'm not saying that, yes, because you can never have a perfect situation, perfection go on. And even the software they are talking, you know, there are many things, because I remember when the Oracle came, I'm one of those, and that was controller challenging hard Oracle, because one of the problems Ghana Waste faced was this Oracle, they send there, and didn't go on. But the question is, the modules are too many. If the deductions, the software, that is why sometimes you see somebody's salary can be 0. But when you take the Labor Act, nobody should take less than 45% of his gross pay home. You know that? Yeah. That is the Labor Act go on. Sure. So why does that happen? Because you go and buy these things from KC and Co. You go and buy a phone mattress here. You go, but the source should be able to detect that the purchasing you are taking has exceeded is 45% and go on. So there are challenges.
And the Oracle.
So there are challenges in this software. When they are talking this and go, we don't want to talk about this and go on. You see, but I don't want to go to that way. I'm saying that there's a big challenges in the whole payroll system. Controller have its problem of validation and go on. But the major problem comes from the source data. Garbage in, garbage out. You bring the source data which is wrong and feed in, you get wrong output. Period.
So the focus now, the primary focus should be on these
GS,
agencies.
Ministry of Health, all those MMDAs. I mean, these things.
You mentioned local government as well.
Yes,
a lot of
they don't take this because you have these assemblies and they all take their salary from the consolidated this and go on. And look at the number of assemblies and employees. That's it. I mean, the biggest.
So
chunk,
that's actually
the
where
biggest chunk is the GS, followed by Ministry of Health, local government. These alone form about 70% to 80% of the salary structure of the country. You know that, and therefore, if you solve the problem there, you might have taken 70% of the problems away from the payroll.
I see.
Yes. You know, one problem I have with the NDC, two major problems, that we voted for them to come and solve our problem. I did not vote for them in a way, but Ghanaians, majority decision binds all of us to come and solve our problems for us, and all what they can do is to lament, to tell us the problems that we have. Look at this man.
He has politicized the whole issue.
A member of party in power.
He has politicized the whole issue.
He's a member of parliament.
The defeatist approach.
He has politicized the whole issue. What we should do.
Let me tell you,
to have the problem.
The NPP era, when Yasafu was the district, you remember that I was let me tell you, I want to go to the NPP era when Yasafu was the Minister of Finance. Then I was a Director of Audit and Controller. We just finished internal audit of all the payroll, and at that time we realized that. I'm just telling you that is around
you had your time
1997. No, I just want to tell you this is a serious issue. We audited the whole payroll and we realized that we could make a saving of 3 billion at that time, old Ghana city. That's about 300,000.
Which year was that?
That's around 1990, between 1997 to 2000.
1997 to 2000?
Yes, around that period.
But Osaf Mafu was a minister.
He came around 2001 when he became a minister and go on. Okay. And that report was going to go on. You remember once he made a statement that they can make a savings on the payroll, they've got to go to the list. If you go, I can't remember that particular, it came in the press. And I was away because I was a staff. I knew what was going to go on. And I said in my head, he's also going to have the same problem. If they take the ghost name away, this ghost name has a problem. You couldn't solve it. When you came, it was a problem on. All is because you are not looking at the problem. Now that I am saying that if the GIFMIS come and this coming, now that I can say that they are trying to at least 70% to get the problem of the payroll to go on. When we were there, it was a BP problem. It's not this was the problem.
It's good if you mention this.
It's the one who politicize issues like this. We find difficult to get. You see, because when you say NDC,
let me just come in.
And that's the reason why we're not solving the problem.
Let me just come in. You mentioned something about the GIFMIS system.
Yes.
And I know there are some challenges with the GIFMIS system because many of the MDAs do not really want to sign up to it.
They know why.
They know
why. Let me tell
you. That's the challenge.
They know why. They know why. Yes. Why would they want to sign it? I was amazed when we went to Public Accounts Committee at Gambia. I was amazed. Yaya Gaman lecture us on GIFMIS. You know, it started. They know the man who wrote the GIFMIS is a Gambian man and go on. Okay. And the way he took it. Since then, I came to study the GIFMIS because the GIFMIS will ensure that you will not exceed your budget, and there's no way your warrant will give it to you. For example, once the budget has gone 2015, and they know that your budget is this, even with the item 1. The personal emolument, you to make sure every month, if your budget, total budget, let's say 20 million, and you have come to take 1 million, 19 million is left, 20 million, at any time, it checks it and go on. That's the reason why. Because you look at 2014 outcome of all the ministries, the item that exceeded the budget was more of item 1, personal emolument. Go back and look at all the budget, look at the personal emolument, no services, no capital expenditure, personal emolument. When you check it, it helps us in dealing with this sort of so-called ghost name and things and go on. So they have to sign to it. They cannot refuse.
So they have to.
The Ministry of Finance will have to make sure that they sign to it because we are all interested in sound financial management in this country. How do we achieve financial management?
The office of the president also signs to it, and the office
of the president will have to. No,
as I was saying, again to the main issue. People say it doesn't look like there's that willpower, that commitment from government, because you seem to have the options, you seem to have the answers.
Oh, I think this government is more committed. If there's any other government that is committed, in cleaning
all
and bringing
what,
sound
all
management.
what they can
This
do
particular
for us
government
now is to tell us the problem that we have.
If really they give me a
come
system,
to create problems,
if really,
no,
they
my
just
colleague.
to solve it.
Let me.
He's my co-worker. You know that he's my colleague. Yeah, he's my co-worker. We're DVN together.
So you see, and the third,
nobody's lamenting. We are solving the
we have
problem.
said the whole lot.
I just want us to look at
and the issues are
so
Guys, go on for yes.
So this is the situation. Now you are aware that this, if it's mandatory for all MMDAs to actually sign up to this gift me system, it will help us.
If you don't sign to it, you don't get to your budget allocation. That's what the Ministry of
the
Finance.
office of the president, the office of the president will never have the budget allocation.
Hold on. You said that is what they should do.
The minister should insist, and I'm sure he's going to trust
They
that.
see that.
You see, what they did first is the piloting. They piloted some ministries, and now they're going to go on full scale. The rest of the MDAs, the Ministry Department agencies will come
including
on board.
the government machinery.
Of course, including the president, including the government, including parliament. Including parliament, you also have to sign to it.
Yes.
Because
so my point
how
is
soon are we looking to see this?
Well, I am not in the Ministry of Finance now, but as far as I'm concerned, the government is putting pressure on the Ministry of Finance. Is the Ministry of Finance to come with the timetable? I told some time ago, I happened to be talking to the controller, and they'll put a timetable at least by the mid-year, that is June, July. All MMDAs, Ministry Department Agency, will have to sign.
June, July this year.
That is what I'm saying. I'm not sure of it. So that I'm not sure of it, but you are one of the most good journalists. You can go over there. But I think between June, July, most ministers should come on board and sign on it, and then the completion that they give me would take this and go on board. Right now, they have how they could pilot this and go on, and a lot are on it, but a lot are more to come onto it and go on.
Okay. Anyway, so maybe
yeah. So what I was saying there is not politicizing the issue. This is not about politics. Okay. I'm saying that we government is put into power to know the problems and solve them, not to tell us the problems that we have. Knowing them is different from solving them. Either they don't tap the correct resource. I'm talking about human resource that they have, like Alhaji Day sitting here. Can they make use of him? Or they are
making use of us. We are sitting here discussing. They are making use of me now.
By telling us what the problem that we have.
Not the problem. We are also telling the solution. I'm telling the gift means it's now.
We are proposing solutions.
And we are not proposing. The government is solving them. The government is solving the problem. Look, if you look at the measures that
these are the two major problems how we end this government. They only tell us what the problem that we have without solving them. Or they come to meet a solved situation. Then they create a problem and then attempt to solve it. And then they go and see someone and say, clap for us, we are solving it.
But he's actually giving us things that they are
We are talking about cost of living.
But he has actually mentioned that they are doing something about the problem.
What are they doing about the problem? He just told us the problem they have at the controller and what they should do. I'm saying they should.
Controller has put up a lot of measures as now. They have the
what are some of the measures that
they have the sectorial committee.
They have set up a number of committees. They have set up.
As for the committees, we know they are capable of setting up committees. Look at what happened in Metro Mass Transit. In a situation where we have cost of living going high, and the government ought to increase the minimum wage to meet workers halfway.
Don't go there again. We are past that, but let's go to what
one thing that they can do to reduce the cost of living is having other alternative form of transport like Metro Mass, where the poor can. Look at what is happening. They came to meet. It's been set up by some of us. Today, what is happening in Metro Mass Transit? Then they say government dissolve the board, ask the MD and DMD to step aside, so clap for government. When you came, there was no
what
problem.
We took over,
you created a problem and said make an attempt to solve
the problem. Well, you remember that all the parties were granted. They couldn't even move.
In Germany, saying that the minimum wage was 70%, we've been able to bring
it. No, it is the minimum wage. It said that the wage to tax revenue
percentage is 70%, and we are trying to bring it to 57%. But when it came to meet it in 2008, it was around 25%. So who increased it to 70%?
No, it wasn't.
Who increased it to 70%?
It wasn't.
And you are trying, making an attempt to break it down, and then you go and say we should clap.
You signed the single
some
spine.
of the problems that
If government signed the single spine,
single
a day
spine,
of handing
the
over.
way we wanted to implement the single spine,
Since January, you know,
implemented it.
you have
That's
lost
why you are having
election.
problems
After
with it.
you have lost
That
election.
is why you were not able
You
to
have lost
increase
an
revenue
election.
to match
Why
it.
will you
And
sign
then
the
we
single
have
spine on 6 January when you're handing over 7 January?
Okay.
You know the consequences.
Going
Anyway,
back.
anyway.
To sign
So
the
we
Then
should,
maybe
as a
we
country,
can, maybe
we
we
must
can.
have a
Okay,
I
government.
think you're heckling him
yes,
actually.
yes,
You are heckling him.
Yes,
So that-
yes.
yes.
So as a government, we
don't
must
think,
see
yeah.
government solving the problems, not to create them.
We are solving
make
a lot of
an
problems.
attempt. Look
Yes,
at what
I
we
see
have
it.
at GIDA, and when they came, we have
No, don't go there. That's
youth
not the issues
unemployment
we are
program
talking.
that was working peacefully, nicely. And the president said,
At least
because
for
See,
Jida, we can see they are doing something.
Yeah.
A lot of restructuring. has been
what
done.
are
A lot
the
of things have actually-
restructuring? Attempting to prosecute people, attempting to put
sure
up
that
a new
rest
system.
is actually
And all
done.
that.
Process.
This
that's one.
these
That's
are
one.
just
But anyway,
these are
anyway,
things
yes.
that they are
Anyway,
doing to throw that into the eyes of the
I think
Ghanaians.
we should go back
see
to-
problems
we should-
being
To the
solved.
topic.
We should go
We
back
are
to-
still on the
Yeah,
topic.
we are still on the
talking
topic.
about
Jida is
that.
part
Yeah.
of the
No, yes, yes. When
Okay.
the cost of living is down,
Just a second. I want us to go to the controller and accountant general.
Yes.
Let's go to the controller. We know there have been issues with the Oracle, like you mentioned earlier.
Yes.
Even at the time while you were there, there were
Yes.
issues with the Oracle system.
Yes.
Now a new system was brought in, the Architria system. We are told by
Yes.
SoftTribe, developed by SoftTribe. We were told quite a number of issues came up, and the SoftTribe was actually accused of their system, we were told, had some flaws. Now SoftTribe comes out to defend itself and backs their claims with quite a number of things. With some evidence. And in the end, it becomes an issue.
It's unfortunate.
They are being
on both sides. Maybe Mokolo throw more light. It's unfortunate on both sides. Excuse me.
The accountant general is actually threatening to sue SoftTribe.
Yes, and if he divulges any information which is really in accordance to the contract, he can sue him. Because excuse me, all the controllers say that there are challenges with the software, which is a fact. There are challenges with the software. You can come out and say that, give me those challenges and see whether we haven't solved it. Software, I'm coming. He has the right to say that. Sure. But you cannot divulge information which, excuse me to say, because payroll is a confidential information. Payroll is a confidential information. You cannot publish information that are confidential in the papers about payroll without first seeking clearance and going on. I don't know the details. I just heard it on your news when I was coming. Yeah. I don't know the details. I'm not holding brief for controller, but what I'm saying is that controller has made a statement that there are challenges. Software can say that, please, can you tell us the challenges that you brought we are not able to solve? Then controller can enumerate those challenges. Then software can say that, look, this challenge, why you say we did this challenge, why we see this there. But you cannot come straight away because they say that there are challenges with it. Of course, every system has a challenge.
So maybe let me just come in here.
Software went beyond.
I've been listening to SoftTribe, and what they've mentioned so far is that the challenge is not with the system.
They're published. According to your news, they're published.
Just
not only mentioned, they're published. Yes.
What they mentioned, what I heard them say is that the problem the controller is talking about is not really about their system. It's about data that was put into the system, and they they actually want controller, and the controller general said, "Oh, go ahead and just put it in the system. As we move on, we'll handle some of these issues. We'll be correcting them." So why don't you turn around and come say, "Well, I am the guilty one here"?
So if that's the issue, if that's the issue they have mentioned,
they have credibility issues. I work for a number of
I agree with you, if that's what you have said, the way you said it, I don't think there'll be a problem. But they went out to publish data. That is what I heard from you.
Obviously,
if you publish a data, because, excuse me, if in my data, I can sue you. My payroll, if you bring anything news about my payroll, it's confidential.
Again, let me clarify this. Let me clarify this. SoftTribe says it never.
I'm not ready. I'm not taking from the context of what you have said.
I've heard them speak. I haven't spoken to them personally, but I've heard them speak on a number of.
SoftTribe have the right to defend its integrity.
Yes, indeed.
Of course.
And what they are saying is that they have not put across any information that bears.
Their words against controller. We'll look at it. Controller is threatening to go to the court.
Most of the things they attached to their publication were actually correspondence they've had with the controller and accountant general.
I haven't seen
not
it.
Really things. I mean, the controller cited a KPMG report, for instance, which they claim they didn't put out.
That's what we are saying.
Indeed.
Because I am the client. You have come to audit. You are supposed. I've set you to do it for me.
But they cannot have access to a KPMG document, can they?
No, they can't. They can't have an input to it. It's the auditor. I don't know who employed them. Whether it was to control the Auditor General. It's the Auditor General who did it. The Auditor General have the right, because he's the ownership of the team and can basically. You know, in this country, what has happened? Particularly, you people are happy to do that. One has I have to react this because when there was this draft report about SADA, a draft report is not a finality. And you cannot come out to Syria a draft report. It can change. In fact, it can completely change. Because until the man has come to give his version of the draft report, whoever the allegations is made against, I'm an auditor by profession. And therefore, I know what I'm talking about. You started seeing the whole thing going on. And I said, be cautious. And I remember even our senior colleague like Kuku Bakwa to tell me said that because there was a draft report during the MPP time concerning renovation of Kufuor's house. It was in a draft form, and they brought it to and the people talk. In the long run, when they have to do the final report, a lot of things has changed. It does happen. So sometimes,
but that's why anytime
you
put
can't
out
go
a draft
ahead.
report,
You can't go ahead using a draft report.
You go ahead to say it is a draft report, and obviously people know that draft reports.
No, yeah, but why would you like to take? Because if you have already said, if the auditor made a mistake and said something which is not correct, and you go ahead to make it to the whole world, because look at Moto TV is the whole world. Then it turned out not to be true. What happens? You have damaged me beyond repairs. So please, let's be very careful about that.
So you think the Controller and Accountant General has a point in suing?
No, I don't know the facts of the case. All I'm saying is that if they really publish a data which is supposed to be confidential as part of the contract, they are not supposed to do.
They say they haven't done any such thing.
Fine, so now they are worse against controller.
They are worse against controller. And see that yes, they do or they didn't. But what I find it very difficult to understand is that when you have a contract with a company or in between two parties, there are certain clauses you have to put in it. If there's a breach of the contract, you invite the person or the other party, then you sort things out. For instance, if Subtribe has given out a software to you that you're operating, you have challenges with it, and people or teachers and workers are accusing Controller of not of the problem that they are having with the software. Exactly. It would be proper for Controller and Accountant General to invite software and say that these are the challenges that we are having. So they trash things out per the agreement that they had. But if Controller comes out to paint a picture, putting the blame on software, as if Subtribe has not been able to give them good job, definitely it's also a private entity. So the Subtribe would come out at the same publication where you make your publication, they'll also go there and try to defend themselves. And that is what is creating the problem now. I was expecting the Controller Accountant General to invite Subtribe and say that these are the problems you're having and people are complaining. What can we do about it? Than to come out and attempt to defend itself. I'm talking about Controller, telling the public that it's the Subtribe software that is giving them that problem. Definitely, they will also be working with other international organizations. If they see this publication, they may not be happy. So, as a private organization, they will also try to. And my senior colleague here is it's an auditor. So definitely, auditors like this, it's credibility that gets job for them. So they will also come out to defend themselves. So whether claim and the counter claims, the controller is saying it's going to court. Controller should go to court and see what will happen.
Okay,
but so I think that they started the fire and they should cease fire. They should cease fire and then see how best.
I see. Since Elijah Abubakar used to work there, I'm sure you can talk to them. You know what ceasefire. I'm sure you can.
Because it will not benefit both parties. It will not. Okay. So the best thing they can do is to go to court if indeed they think that Subtribe.
No, you see,
they also defend themselves.
Yes, like you say, if controller, if it's true. I only use the word if. If it's true that they put confidential information to go, if the controller doesn't go to court, individual private can sue.
Okay.
You see what I'm saying? Because that is more confidential. If the controller, and they can sue both controller and the software for controller allowing them to publish information data of them which should be confidential.
But that's if they actually put it out.
That's the word if. That's what I'm saying.
But I don't know the details. I don't know the details. If I happen to be Subtribe, I'd rather sue controller instead of counter.
Good. That is if you think that what they are doing,
because if I've given you a software and it's giving you a problem, come to me. Don't go to air and say that I've given you a wrong.
There's some information we picked up just when we started the show. We were trying to verify it, and maybe I could put this information out there now.